we want to take that time after we're still to just listen. What is a deeper underlying truth? What is the bedrock of truth that is flowing here that I can be aware of?
If you're not conscious about your investment strategy, you won't end up where you want to be, not financially or as a human. On this show, we interview highly successful investors and share how they overcame limitations to become unstoppable forces of success. If you're ready to learn what it is to be a conscious investor so you can end up where you want, keep listening.
Welcome back, Conscious Investor. Have you already picked up your tickets to the Conscious Investor Growth Summit? Oh my goodness, it is right around the corner. It's just a couple of weeks away, and it is going to be extraordinary. If you've used the promo code MINDSET, you can save 50% even still on any ticket because you're a Conscious Investor listener. Of course, like the best for you. I'd love to see you there, where we're going to be talking about health, mindset, and wealth. The most extraordinary speaker lineup. What an opportunity for you to elevate yourself in every single echelon of the conscious investor. All right, we're talking about sleepless nights. They're real. I hear people talk about sleepless nights on a regular basis, and yet we know that statistically, we need our rest. Our body needs that rest. People operating on 4 hours of rest, dear God, why? Like, you actually physiologically need the rest. Your body goes into this entirely different operation when you are asleep. So as much as we love to be awake and be productive, we actually are extraordinarily productive when we are sleeping. And yet, oftentimes, we're not sleeping. What is going on? You know, I value sleep so much, and I don't like sleepless nights. You've heard me talk about, wow, when I had 3 sleepless nights in a row after launching a deal, I was wide-eyed and ended up walking away from the deal. And that deal ended up falling apart. And it was really such an odd experience. But I'm not going to go into that right now. I am going to talk about some sleepless nights I've had with the Conscious Investor Growth Summit. And really the process of everything that I have learned as I have just worked to put together the Growth Summit. It's been a deeply spiritual experience. And part of that spiritual experience has been losing sleep at night. Back in December, I shared with you how, I had a lot of sleepless nights in December. I was very stressed and I was wrestling and I could not sleep. And in the midst of not sleeping at that time, I used that time to get quiet and to get still. And that's the first thing that I have found to be extremely important. I used to do what a lot of people do. I would stress myself out because I'm not sleeping. Oh my gosh, why am I not sleeping? I need my sleep. Sleep's really important. Oh my gosh, I'm only going to get like X amount of hours now because I'm not asleep. I've got to fall asleep. Come on, fall asleep. And I'm stressing myself out about not falling asleep. Like, it turns into this big production, this big to-do. And yet when we can simply find that surrender, that acceptance to say, I'm not sleeping. Interesting. What's going on? It's a really great opportunity just for us to pause and say, wow, okay, why is this happening? So I've learned to, one, get still. Not sleeping at night doesn't mean there's something wrong, but it does mean that there's something that probably wants our attention. Now we have to evaluate, what is it that wants our attention, or who is it that wants our attention? This is an interesting part, is that oftentimes we don't lay our mind to rest before we go to rest. And so we're still thinking about all the things that were going on during the day. So having an evening routine, which is something we've talked about before, is really helpful to putting the mind to rest, so that those thoughts about, okay, I got to get that done on that project, and I got to make sure I make the phone call over there. Shoot, I didn't return that message, so I got to get to that. And tomorrow we've got, kids got to get here, there, and everywhere. And I've got the right. We can spend our mind can start spinning on that unless we lay it to rest. By creating and lining out our day in advance, we can, and closing out our day and preparing ourselves for the next day, we can actually create a restful spot for our mind. So if we're having those type of thoughts, then we can simply, okay, I need a good end of the day closing routine. I have a little checklist. Okay, great. I've returned the emails I need to. I've gone through all the priorities have been met. And if there was anything that wasn't met, they are noted and they are top of the list for tomorrow. And I know what I need to do tomorrow. Therefore, now I need to rest so that I can be prepared for that tomorrow. So we can lay those thoughts to rest. But I don't know that it's always those thoughts that are keeping us up at night. For me, going through this leading into Conscious Investor Growth Summit, a lot of the thoughts that have left me up at night have been, I don't know if it's so much worry or anxiety. I honestly haven't quite found the word for it. At times it has been worry and anxiety. Maybe, again, it's really interesting. It's been a very interesting experience for me because I've shifted and I can see the internal growth on my own part and to see where God's taken me. So now I have had this experience. December was its own experience, which I've talked about in past episodes. And I was worrying and I was anxious and I got still and quiet. And I was asking God over and over again, what is it you were trying to teach me? Like, I know I'm supposed to put this summit on and I'm taking action on that. I believe that you are guiding me in this capacity. So what else is going on here? Like, I should feel pretty solid and confident. I'm doing what I believe I'm supposed to be doing, and yet I don't. And that's where, and I've spoken about this on past episodes, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but that's where I found the difference between faith and trust. Having that belief in the unknown. Oh, I know I'm supposed to put this event on. I know that this is supposed to happen. And I believe that I can't, it's not tangible, but I can see it and I can do that. That's faith. The trust is putting the action to that faith. And that was something that I learned back in December. Like, okay, all right, that's okay. And I kind of thought then, okay, that's what you were trying to teach me. You were trying to teach me about faith and trust. That's super cool. I like this. And that's something after all these, 4.5 decades, I'm surprised. I'm so happy I get to learn this. But there's more. Recently, I've been up at night again. I'm like, wait a second. Hey, God, didn't we already do this? Didn't we already do this whole, I was up and you and I were conversing about all of these topics and I learned faith and trust. So what is it that you're trying to teach me now? So initially I said, we need to be still, right? What is it that's keeping me up? Now I moved into a position of listening. Okay. I'm not understanding why I'm here in this position up at night again on the same topic. I'm not worrying right now, which is really weird that I'm up at night, but I'm not worrying and anxious about this because of what you already taught me back in December, but I'm up. So what's the next lesson? For me, and this is going to be different depending on everyone's beliefs, right? But this is really cool is that as I got quiet this last little bit of time where I was up at night, I started realizing that different stories, different accounts were coming into my mind from my own personal experience and from the Bible. And it was pretty cool to be able to see, like, because I sat there and I'm like, God, we've done this. We were up. And I know that, well, we've talked about David and Goliath, and he showed up for David, and he showed up for David quite a bit, even when he made a lot of really big mistakes. And I started recounting different ways God showed up and different people that I was not being. I'm like, okay, I'm not being like a Jonah. I am not trying to run away from what I believe you're calling me to. I'm also not upset with you with any of the changes and complaining at you. I have a willing heart. Okay, that's super cool. And then looking at the strength that he provides other people as I started reading through Nehemiah and just operating out of that strength and that clarity. And so it was interesting to see that as I was listening to these different stories in my personal life and in biblical accounts, it actually reaffirmed and reassured me. So the point of this, regardless of your beliefs, is we want to take that time after we're still to just listen. What is a deeper underlying truth? What is the bedrock of truth that is flowing here that I can be aware of? Sometimes we're up at night, and instead of consoling ourselves by being still and listening, we rev ourselves up even further. And we worry ourselves further. And we go down these rabbit holes of what if, instead of anchoring ourselves back down into what is and what is truth and what is the evidence of that truth in my life and in the world, we go down this other path. So I found that really interesting and really helpful in my I'm up at night. And that it really dovetails into this last point, which is we want to remember who we are, remember why we're doing something, remember what we're trying to generate in the world. When we remember, we're able to have that reassurance. It's just one more layer of reassurance that we have, is if we're on the right path, if we're operating with being clear with ourselves and we're taking the best steps possible, it's going to be okay. But that leads into an entirely different conversation about outcomes. And that's what I'm going to talk about next week, Conscious Investor. I want to talk about the outcomes that we are expecting in life. So stay tuned for that one. But in the meantime, if you are struggling with your sleep at night, don't stress about it. Be still. Listen to yourself. Listen to the divine. Remember. Before we go, I want to share one more brief account. And this was a very interesting process. If you're on the newsletter, I've been putting at the very bottom the book that I'm currently reading. And I just wrapped up this book, Living Untethered by Michael Singer. I've mentioned this before, some of his other works. I don't agree completely with Michael Singer's worldview, and I'm not afraid to say that. I think it's healthy to read across genres and to read other ideas. I like that it's spiritual, it's esoteric, it's philosophical, it's a little bit of everything. One of the things that did help me also with my I'm having trouble sleeping was simply being. And that goes back to that stillness. So I think I need to circle back to stillness for just one moment, Conscious Investor. Just being is okay. Now, in Living Untethered, he's talking about energy blockages in our system, in our bodies, right? And those could be traumas that we've experienced, different schema. And so one night I just laid there and I observed myself, right? And this is part of that, get still and listen. And just observing what is taking place. Be a third party to yourself. It was extremely interesting. And it was also interesting. I just started observing my thoughts. And instead of engaging those thoughts, it was, okay, well, I'm thinking about that. Interesting. Oh, I'm thinking about that. Interesting. And it's more like if you had a balloon filled with helium and you were holding it and you just let it go. Oh, look at that balloon, and let it go and release it. It was very, very fascinating. I'd never experienced anything like that. I'd never tried an exercise of this nature. And it's not one he specifically says, but it's definitely in line with some of the concepts that he puts in there is like just releasing these thoughts as they are going through and just let them pass through. Not every thought needs to be, latched onto and grabbed onto. And sometimes we just need to let those thoughts pass on through and just observe them as they go by, just like, a car driving down the road. All right, it's just passing on through. I think that right there might be helpful for a lot of you. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean you must engage that thought. You can just allow it to pass on through and just observe it and say, oh, there goes a red truck. Like there it goes. All right, no problem. So, conscious investor, a little bit different conversation here today as we talk about, when we have the sleepless nights. I want to share with you probably some of the other things that I'm learning through putting on the Growth Summit. And I'll have more to share, especially once the Growth Summit's done and I'm looking in hindsight. But there is a lot of value in sharing things in the moment that are real time because the lessons are very, very, very real. So as you are looking at your life, I want you to think about what is the lesson right now in life that is so real. Are you taking time to journal about it, to write through, even if it's just one sentence each day, to just document, whoa, this is the real right now. And as you do that, you can see the progression and the change. And then when you look back, it's really fascinating to observe yourself and say, that is so interesting. I can see the golden thread of where God led me through all of this. So take time to journal. Also, conscious investor, I appreciate you. I value you. I'm so grateful for all of the ratings, the reviews that you have left over the years. And I just love that I can say years. This has been a labor of true love. Like I love creating this content for you. And I appreciate that you're patient with me as I continually learn and grow. You're here with me, conscious investor. And I appreciate that. We're doing this together. We're in it together. If you haven't already left a rating and review, please take a moment. Let me know what's standing out to you. And even more, if we haven't spoken about your investing or about how you might want to collaborate to help you unpack your full potential that God's created you with, then schedule time for us to chat down below in the show notes. And you'll see by the ratings and reviews, people who've spoken with me, it's just like talking with me on the podcast. I am the same here. I am the same there. I am the same everywhere. I do not change. And so I really value those conversations that we have and just being able to connect with you, because otherwise I'm just over here talking in my studio by myself at a computer screen, creating content for you. So reach on out. Let me know who you are. You can do that by scheduling time for us to talk, by leaving a review, by sharing on social media and tagging the Conscious Investor podcast, however you like to do it. I appreciate you, Conscious Investor. Until next time, cheers to your health, your mindset, and your wealth.